What's up, Sneeples? It's been a minute since I've done a budget deck tech video about Blitz, but here we go. We got Rhinar. Rhinar is a very personal favorite of mine, and I'm so happy that I finally found a budget version that is still competitive because that's the quota we have to make. Let's talk about why Rhinar is the deck to do for only $20. Okay, so let's talk about Rhinar himself real quick. Whenever you discard a card with 6 or more power, then Intimidate. That's going to be very relevant. Intimidate is banishing a random card from their hand. Very good. We're going to be running Barkbone Strappings. This is what you see in every competitive Rhinar deck. Great way to be able to block, great way to be able to generate resources, and with Rhinar, you're not always going to make it to turn 3, so that's why you wouldn't even think about Tunic. Beaten Trackers, this is definitely our budget version of Scabskin Leathers, but the card is so good that sometimes it is actually preferred over Scabskin Leathers. And in this deck, we are definitely taking advantage of that because it is significantly cheaper. And it has, whenever you discard a random card with 6 or more power, which a lot of our cards do, we can break this leg equipment and get an extra action point, which basically means we can have an attack go again, or we can gain 2 action points on 1 turn. Perfect what we need. Goliath Gauntlet. This is a great tool just to push damage over. We see a lot of our attacks that cost 2 or more, so this will trigger on mostly everything. I think there's only 1 card that it won't trigger on. We're rocking the 2 Mandible Claws here. It's just such a great card, especially with Blood Rush Bellow. So of course we're going to be rocking that. And then we got a little bit of AB for the Wizard matchups. Rocking AB3, but we're actually rocking AB5 because this is our headpiece, and that is Skull Horn. Being able to have an action to draw a card and then discard a random card can allow for an Intimidate trigger to occur. So if you're not facing against a wizard, you can use this against your other opponents in order to just have an extra source of Intimidate to ensure that damage goes through. Okay, so let's get into the deck itself. So we got the Alpha Rampages. This is a Majestic, cheap Majestic, very cheap. However, to play, it costs a little bit, right? It costs 3, plus you discard a card at random, and then it has Intimidate. Well, the discarding card will give it Intimidate, so it almost has 2 Intimidate with it, which is a very big card and allows it to be a really good finisher. Pairs up very nice with Barraging Beatdown, because Barraging Beatdown is a 0 cost that pumps up your next Brute attack. This one gives it +4 being the red. However, as long as they're defended by less than 2 non-equipment card, and it has Intimidate. So you play this card, you Intimidate 1 card out of their hand, given your next attack +4. Then you play Alpha Rampage, and you discard a 6 power cost from your hand, which will Intimidate through Rhinar's trigger, and then Alpha Rampage has Intimidate. So now you have just intimidated 3 of the 4 cards out of your opponent's hand, which means that they can only block with 1 card out of their hand, which means that this will always stay at +4. And ultimately, you're coming in for 13 damage that they can only block with 1 card, and that is the power of Rhinar. That is the Unga Boonga of Rhinar. Okay, let's talk about some other cards. We got Bear Fangs here. This is just a 2 for 6 that could be a 2 for 8 with Intimidate. It draws and then discards, so it doesn't have a discard in the cost. So you can have this as your last card in your hand and totally be fine. It does not block though. That should be noted. Massacre. This is another Majestic, but still cheap. This one works very well because if you can discard it as part of the cost, just like with this Alpha Rampage, is additional cost. You must discard a random card. If you discard a Massacre, then you Intimidate again. So this is a double Intimidate trigger because of Rhinar and then Massacre. So it's another way to get double Intimidate. But it also has, as if you had discarded a card previously, now this gets +2 and Intimidate. So Maybe you activate your Skull Horn, and now this you can have this come in for 3 for 8 with Intimidate. Not bad, right? Pack Hunt is a 2 for 6 with Intimidate. That blocks for 3. That's just a good value card, and that's why it's in here. Savage Beatdown, a personal favorite of mine. A 3 for 6 that blocks for 3. Okay. But you can only play with this if you discarded a card with 6 or more previously. So if you go Skullhorn to discard a 6 or more card, you get 1 Intimidate. And then you play Savage Beatdown, which has you discard another card. And if that card is 6 or more, you'll get another Intimidate. So that's 2 Intimidates. And then you're coming in for 12 because it gets plus 6. So 3 for 12. Pretty good. That's why I like this card. It's just a one-of because it does take a little bit of work to make work. But, you know, it still is a very good card. Savage Feast. Savage Feast is an extremely good card. And it's cards you might want to consider using your beaten trackers on. Because this card has it when you discard a card as part of its cost, but then when you do, if it has 6 or more, you draw a card. So if you can gain another action point after you do that, that will allow you to play the card you draw, or pitch it to come in with your weapon, what have you. Alright, Savage Swings. These are just 1s for 6 that cause you to discard a card, but it's really that it's a yellow pitch that's 6 and it blocks for 3. The red is a 7 power. These are just big attacks, nothing really to them. Wild Ride, kind of like Bare Fangs, it draws a card and then discards a card, so it kind of replaces itself. But if the discarded card was 6 or more, it has Go Again. So this is kind of a way to get multiple attacks in on one turn. Very good for Rhinar. Barraging Bighorn. Does not draw you the card, but if you do discard a card with 6 or more, this will have Go Again. This one's a little harder to make work, but more importantly is it's a yellow pitch that has 6 power. And the reason why that's important is because a lot of times 6 powers are under red pitches. So if you can have under yellow pitches, it makes it where you can have more 6 power cards that can pitch for you, because you want to try to have as many as possible for your Intimidate triggers. And that's really where it's at. Blood Rush Bellow, the best card in your deck. You want to take damage in order to get the most when you're playing this card. Don't block when you have this card unless you have like a non-attack action or something, because this card is so good. It does require you to discard a random card, which usually will give the Intimidate. Should only always give the Intimidate, basically. Your Brute attacks gain +2 this turn, and then if the discarded card has 6 or more power, draw 2 cards, and then this card itself gains Go Again. So if you can discard a 6 power card with this Blood Rush Bellow, then you will draw 2 cards, and all your Brute attacks get +2, and that includes your Mandible Claws. So very, very powerful cards. Definitely a card that you want to see as many times as often in a Blitz game for sure. Reincarnate is just a yellow pitch that is a 6 power, but this one has it when you're discarding this card at random, you put it on the bottom of your deck. So it's kind of cool. It kind of allows it to cycle. Smash Instinct, it's really just 3 for 6 with Intimidate, and again, just a yellow pitch 6. That's really what it's there for. Wrecker Romp is very interesting because this is our only blue pitch 6. So obviously we really like this card, and we have a card that really works well with it, but having blue pitch 6 is a very good thing for Rhinar. Alright, let's get into his other blues. We have High Roller. This is an Intimidate card. It's just like the Barraging Beatdowns, except this one doesn't actually give a plus bonus. It does have it if you rolled a 6 on this turn, you can Intimidate twice. That never really happens. You could possibly roll 6 with the Barkbone Strapping. That would be cool, but it doesn't often happen, and I would just focus on the first Intimidate with this card. Reckless Swing, one of the best Rhinar cards, because this card usually wins you games. It is a defense reaction that blocks for 4, 0-4, but has you discard a random card. And if the random card is 6 or more, you deal 2 damage to your attacking hero. And this is an arcane damage. They can't block this damage. So this is pretty damn good. And we'll get some sneaky wins in for sure. If your opponent's at 2 and they swing at you, they're taking a risk. And then finally, you have Sand Sketch Plan. This is another way for Rhinar to get another action point. You search your deck for a card, you put it in your hand, discard a random card, then shuffle your deck. If the discarded card is 6 or more, you gain 2 action points. Now, a little word of the wise with this card. You almost always want to grab a Wreck or Romp. And the reason is because you're getting rid of a blue card in your hand, and so you want to fill it back up with a blue card so that you can play your other cards out there. However, that's not always the case, because maybe you already have a Wreck or Romp in your hand when you play Sandscape Lands. In that case, grabbing a Savage Feast might be the way to go, just because it allows you to have a chance to use that extra action point when you draw a card. Just be sure to always grab a attack action and not a non-attack action, because if you end up discarding like a Blood Rush Bellow, that could be terrible. It's a little too risky for my blood. And that's really Rhinar. Now, I want to show here on the price, it's $20. We made it to the $20 mark. Your most expensive card is Massacre. Skullhorn is at $5.50, so that one's a little expensive. And then your Blood Rush Bellows, which is $4, but so worth it. You can't build a deck without it, basically. But it comes out to $20, which is a good budget price. Now, sometimes we make budget decks that go up to $50, and if we were to do that here, my biggest advice would be to get this piece of equipment. It is a legendary. It's called Scowling Flesh Bag. When it defends, you intimidate, and that's intimidating on their turn. So if you're going against like a go wide deck, this would be very good. But it does put the price up to about $60. So it gets a little over that range because it is $32. So it's, that's why it's not in the original deck. But if you have a little extra cash to spare, that would be the first card I would look to upgrade. But past that, this deck should be able to do quite well. It's Rhinar. Rhinar just goes Oonga Booga and just really wrecks face, and he's a lot of fun to play. So get out there, upgrade this Blitz deck, and have some fun with it. Thanks for watching, guys. Keep on fapping.